Have you ever been handed a task so large and intimidating that your first instinct was to just turn around and walk away? If you have, you are in good company. When we look at the life of the Apostle Paul, especially his time in the ancient city of Corinth, we see a man who faced that exact same crippling anxiety. We often put biblical figures on pedestals, but Paul was a regular, working person. To pay his bills and support his travels, he worked with his hands making tents. But alongside his daily trade, Paul lived with a sense of being sent, specifically by God's will, to share the love of Jesus. For him, being an apostle meant making Christ the absolute center of every thought and every conversation. God does not require us to be perfectly brave to do his work. He calls ordinary, hesitant people to carry his message into the most intimidating places. Let's look at exactly how intimidating Corinth was. This photograph shows the wide, sprawling, ancient stone ruins of the city overlooking the coast. In its day, it was a massive, loud, and incredibly wealthy hub of global commerce. It was also a culturally toxic environment. The city was dominated by intense religious confusion and deep immorality. Think of it as a blend of Wall Street and Las Vegas. This historical photograph of the Temple of Apollo gives a sense of the heavy, deep-rooted idolatry casting a shadow over daily life. Walking into that environment, you might expect Paul to craft complex philosophical arguments or try to shout louder than everyone else in the marketplace. But he adapted his approach by doing the exact opposite. He stripped away all the heavy rhetoric. He decided to focus on a singular, clear message. He chose to know nothing among them except Jesus Christ and him crucified. Facing an environment this loud and complicated, Paul opted for a different path, a radically simplified, laser-focused message. Even with that focused strategy, the emotional toll was severe. Facing intense hostility, he trembled with fear, completely ready to abandon the mission and leave. But right at that breaking point, God directly intervened. In the middle of the night, Jesus appeared to his reluctant messenger in a vision. This lesson text shows the exact words Jesus used to comfort him. "Do not be afraid, but speak, and do not be silent, for I am with you, and no one will harm you, for many in this city are my people." The physical result of hearing those words was immediate. Paul unpacked his bags and stayed. Because he stayed, local leaders like a man named Crispus believed the message and were baptized. A believer's courage does not well up from a reserve of internal bravery. It comes entirely from the external certainty that God is present. The story did not end smoothly after those initial baptisms. The newly formed church in Corinth still lived in a toxic culture, and the members struggled heavily with their behavior and unity. Because of this, Paul had to provide ongoing care. He wrote the letters we now know as 1st and 2nd Corinthians. He didn't write them to angrily condemn the people, but to offer patient, loving correction. His ultimate goal with these letters was to help these vulnerable believers build a distinctly Christ-focused culture, providing a quiet sanctuary amidst the loud, worldly noise outside their doors. Helping faith survive in a hostile culture takes more than a first introduction. It requires the kind of patient, ongoing mentorship Paul showed through years of writing and visiting. God simply asks us to step out in faith, share his love with the people around us, and trust that he is standing beside us. If you want to put this into practice, keep your outreach simple. You don't need a theology degree to help someone. Just strip away the complexity and share a direct, personal testimony of grace. And when you feel overwhelmed at work, at school, or in your community, mentally lean on his promise. Remind yourself, I am with you. Take a moment to ask yourself, what is your personal Corinth? Where is that specific, difficult environment in your life where God is asking you to be a light? And how does knowing that Jesus is actively present in that space change the way you handle your daily fears? Everything Paul achieved in the ancient world, everything we achieve today, points back to one reality: Jesus meeting people in their mess and leading them into a different way of living. May this lesson strengthen our faith and help us live closer to Christ this week.